Hi, the Rochi J here. I'm putting together this video for anyone who has any doubts that the moon landing was fake. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning right now, so I'm just going to be honest with you guys. You're fucking ridiculous, okay? And just about anyone with half a brain knows you're ridiculous, okay? Your arguments make no sense, and, whatever, alright? I'm just going to outline in simple terms and show you why everything you say is complete bogus, okay? Now, I hate getting out my paper and markers because, it makes me feel like I'm lecturing elementary school children, and I absolutely hate to challenge your intelligence. But sometimes, you just got to be explained things in simple terms, so that's what we're going to do today. We're just going to make things really easy for you guys to understand. So give me a moment here, okay? And we're going to bring class in session. Okay. Okay. Alright. First things first. Let's just talk about what the moon is. The moon was initially created by indigenous people to the Americas, to the Africas, to the Asias, and to the Antarcticas. Basically, these original, very primitive people needed a few different things to help them survive and understand the world they lived in. For some of them, they conjured up the moon as a sort of god or goddess, a sort of bringer of light to the night, while others of them used the moon to help keep time. And we can see this in today's society, where our timekeeping device is actually quite similar to the moon that the ancient Mayans used. As you can see, you know that the moon changes shapes and forms. And with the help of these little pointers, we too can change the shape and form of the moon, or the clock as we call it, to whatever time we need it to be. So, while these ancient people were looking up at the moon, we were looking at clocks, okay? Now, let's go to the 60s, where we believe that humans landed on the moon, okay? First of all, when you have an ancient indigenous people creating something, for example, the Egyptians, who, had this elaborate afterlife, and believed that if you buried, several women along with you when you died, you could frolic around in a sort of orgy as you arrived in the next life. Most of us know today that that's not real. It's a similar case with the moon. The moon was a concept created by these ancient civilizations that, we study, but doesn't actually exist. Okay, and I know some of you are saying, but Rochi J, I can see the moon, I see it every night. You do realize that it's not difficult to create a circular projection, or a crescent projection, or a waxing or waning, or whatever sort of moon you want to see. It's not hard to put that together, okay? But let's just assume for a moment that the moon is real, okay? Let's just I'm just gonna draw out for you, because it makes it easier for people when you can actually see things, how improbable and impossible it is. Or, now, were the moon to exist, we could easily go there, but in the 60s, with that technology, let me just show you how it could have never happened, okay? So, let me bring the camera a bit closer to this. Okay. Now, first of all, we know that the moon changes shape, okay? We have the full moon, we have the crescent moon, we have this thin celery type thing, and we have what's known as the new moon, which is just basically completely covered in black, where, you can't see anything. Now, when you have something that changes shape this rapidly, okay, the moon changes shape every single day. Every single day it changes a little bit, alright? Now, you understand how precise the calculations would have had to be for NASA to actually get people onto the moon successfully while it's changing this quickly. Okay? Let's just say, for example, in smaller terms, so that, let's just say you're on the planet Earth, okay? Do you know how long it takes to get from one side of the United States to the other side of the United States? If you drive non-stop, you can probably do it in about 3 days. Okay? You don't have to worry too much about your destination changing locations too much, because since you are on the planet and as it rotates, you're not going to have to worry about it, the shifting coordinates, during your travels, and it's only 3 days. But when you're talking about going to the moon, you have to understand that the Earth is here. The moon is changing location and shape as your little rocket is trying to hit it. So most likely what'll happen is your little rocket is going to completely miss it. Or it might come close, but the moon will have changed shape just before it could land on it. Alright? So, basically, that's why that's completely infeasible. Now, with today's equipment and computers, we could do it, but you have to remember that in the 60s, all of the math they were doing was on slide rules and with pen and paper. So by the time they finished their calculations, there's absolutely no way that they could have actually gotten to the moon. Okay? Just for starters, alright? Now let's assume that we actually got, a ship to land on the moon, alright? So, here's your little lunar lander. He's right here. And then you have Buzz and, what's his name, Neil. And they come out here and they set up their little camcorder, and they want to transmit this wirelessly, to a satellite, and then back here so that millions of people can watch it on Blog TV. Now, when they do this, you have to understand that we didn't have satellites, like this in the 60s. Okay? So there's no way they could have actually wirelessly transmitted any information through the internet to the planet Earth, to NASA. There's no way we could have gotten that information. Alright? Because, the only satellite that was in existence was Sputnik. And the hell if we were going to ask the Russians for help. I'm just saying, okay? If you want to refute that, go ahead. Now, the thing is, some people will tell me, Jules, they didn't use wireless transmission, okay? And I'll just say, then look at this. We're on the moon, we set up the camcorder, there's no satellite, and we just use a really long extension cord to get back to NASA here on Earth. Alright? The problem is you can't get an extension cord that long. Okay, if you don't believe me, then you can find out for yourself. Go to Home Depot and ask them. Tell them, I need an extension cord to get from my backyard to the moon. And they'll tell you you're crazy, because it's impossible, okay? You can ask a real person and they'll tell you it's impossible. So don't just take my word for it. Do your own investigation, alright? In summary, the moon does not exist.